it's just definitely a dream come true, and I'm really proud to be able to represent the best organization in sports. So
No. All right. I suppose you're right. They are,
they're
as a
not
Lions
bad.
fan, I mean, I can't argue it. Yeah, they are an amazing organization. Welcome back to Any Given Monday. Awesome one this week. Alexa Pano, LPGA winner, star of Short Game. For those that have not watched the Netflix, go watch it. When she was 6, been in front of a camera her whole life, just won. First time she ever played links golf. She won in Ireland on the LPGA Tour. She talks about her dad, relationship with. She has a very cool sponsor. The New England Patriots are on her bag, on her shirt. Um, talks about her dad being on the bag and turning pro and what the decision was like, whether she should have gone to college. So very appreciative of her. A rising star in the LPGA, obviously. Before we get into it, you're in the garage, as you can see if you're watching it on YouTube. Today, literally today, friends are coming over. We're going to build our SkyTrack simulator. They sent me a simulator. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. Hopefully, we get it up today. It's going to be awesome. Thanks to SkyTrack. Thanks to Golf Tech. On the Golf Tech side, go get lessons. Go get fitted. golftech.com. There's definitely one near you. It's an awesome way to improve your game. golftech.com. Can't wait for the simulator. Swag.golf. Awesome club covers. Awesome head covers. Awesome putters. One on the PGA Tour, one on the Corn Ferry Tour, one on the LPGA Tour. All of it good. New Dunning. Okay, this is the last sponsor, I promise. New Dunning stuff. If you're watching on YouTube, check it out. Dunning.golf. DunningGolf.com. Without further ado, and all the sponsors taken care of, going to go build my simulator because I already did the interview. Alexa Pano. Alexa Pano, who claims, and we'll get into it, that she is a fan. Alexa, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. So I was at the Kroger Queen City event. I'm walking away from the range, I think, and Alexa's walking towards. I was going to say hello anyway and congratulate her on her win, and she said hello to me. So, Alexa, tell the haters that didn't believe me that you approached me and said that you're a fan.
Yeah, I definitely did. I had kind of seen your Instagram that you were caddying, and I'd been like following your Instagram and reading articles for a little while, and so I had to take the opportunity to like show the support, you
I
know.
appreciate that very much. Before we get into your win uh, and like what you're kind of, I mean, since then you've played awesome. Let's kind of go back and first let's talk about turning pro. Alexa, was there any? The women's game is a little bit different. A lot of women turn pro at a young age. Was there any conversation with your family or any thought about college or waiting to turn pro or any of those? What were those conversations like?
Yeah, I definitely I considered all of my options. I started super young looking at colleges because when my visiting process started, they had not yet changed the rule that you weren't able to do visits until like junior year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I took my first unofficial visit to the University of Georgia at 12. So it started super young. And I had a lot of thoughts about going to college, but then the rule changed when I was about 14, I want to say. And around that same time, I had started getting into professional events, exemptions into different tournaments. And that's kind of once I got a taste of playing golf at the highest level, I really kind of knew that's what I wanted to do. And so while I was still talking a little bit about college, I had a lot of plans to turn professional. And yeah, and then I signed up for Q school and kind of committed to it when I did that. So
Mm-hmm. So what has been the biggest surprise as a professional golfer? Like have to believe there's not an interview you've ever done that hasn't asked you about short games. But short game, but I'm not going to ask you about short game. For those that haven't, go watch it on Netflix. I mean, like having a camera, being in the public eye in some sense has been literally your entire life. So I would guess your transition to pro golf would have been maybe a little bit easier than others.
Yeah.
But what was kind of the biggest surprise once you did turn pro, Alexa, that maybe you didn't expect, or was there any of that?
Yeah, I think the transition from amateur golf to Epson Tour was a little bit easier because I had a lot of experience competing on the Epson Tour, and that's not a ton different. Um, but transitioning from Epson to LPGA Tour was definitely um, a lot more of a change than I was expecting. The weeks are super short. There's not a lot of course access, and being a rookie, that can be really hard. Learning the course is so fast. And the week to week travel gets harder when you don't have like a full day dedicated to travel. It's like you have to get there and then play Monday right away. Because before I won, I didn't really get into many pro-ams, so Wednesday was normally just practice for me. So I think that was the biggest thing for me, was just learning how to manage it, and I feel like I've got a much better schedule down now. But getting to the LPGA Tour, rookie season's not easy, and I think I kind of everyone told me that, but I kind of thought, okay, well, it'll be easy for me. It's not. It's a struggle. It's a lot of learning. And it's been a great experience, but a lot of learning.
For those that are listening, if you like finish a tournament on Sunday, Monday you can come in. Monday qualifiers on the LPGA Tour are often played on the course that are there, so that limits when you can practice. Tuesday is usually a practice day, and then Wednesday, like Alexa said, if you're not in the pro-am, you really don't have access to the course. So you, as a rookie, you're going to all new courses, and basically, if you get there late Monday, you have one day to learn a golf course. So do you, looking back at the beginning of the season, Alexa, is that what, so uh, made your first cut, finished 57th, then missed like 6 cuts in a row.
Mhm.
Is that, it's, I assume you knew, it's obvious that your game transitioned to the LPGA, but all the outside stuff, is that kind of what, looking back, you affected that?
I think definitely a little bit, but there's also a lot of pressure kind of first year coming on, and you have to learn to adapt to that and be ready for it. But I put a lot of pressure on myself at the beginning of the year. Um, you know, it's always a big worry about status or where you are in CME or um, coming out of Q series. There's no guarantee that you're gonna be playing the whole year. So I think I definitely put a lot of pressure on myself, and then that mixed in with experiencing everything for the first time just kind of all hit me in that um, like you said, that stretch where I was struggling. And now I think I had some decent finishes right before I didn't get into the European stretch. And so I had some time off to kind of, you know, get my game in a really good place. And then that mixed in with me starting to get comfortable on the tour is what really I think led to more of a trend of success.
When you say comfortable on the tour, is it like you talked about a little bit, what your week looks like? Is it feeling like you belong out there? Is it a combination of all of what works for you best in longer weeks? Is it a combination of all of those things?
Yeah, definitely a combination. It's it's not easy. It's a big adjustment from amateur golf. There's so many good players out there, so you have to be playing well at all times um to really compete. So there's a lot that goes into it, and I think it's tough to kind of figure that out on your own. Luckily, I had my dad helping me a lot throughout it, but yeah, it definitely there were times where it was a collective struggle out there. But things have felt a lot easier lately, that's for sure.
Is I hear this a lot on the men's side, is
Mhm.
on the Corn Ferry Tour, guys tend to hang out together. They all kind of have the common goal of getting to the PGA Tour, and then when they get to the PGA Tour, it's a lonelier game. A lot of guys already have their cliques, or they have people around them, agents, coaches, those kind of things. Has that aspect been hard at all, Alexa? Is it kind of the same, the Epson too, where you guys all are kind of chasing the same goal? So a little more travel together, stay in host housing together more often together, those kind of things. And then the LPGA, the few weeks I've been out there, and by no means an expert, it seems to be that they're a little more loners. Is that is that been your experience?
Um, kind of. I think last year on the Epson tour, I made a lot of friends that I wasn't really expecting because I have a tendency to kind of keep to myself sometimes, and it was nice bringing those friends with me to the LPGA tour, and that's been really helpful because um, it can get a little bit clicky out there, but there's so many good people that I've gotten to meet. Um, but I think on the Epson tour, they definitely do. I never really traveled with anybody, but I definitely think there were more girls who did. But honestly, almost everyone gets along out on the LPGA tour, and
Mhm.
for me, that's I have friends that I play practice rounds with, friends that I can go to pro-am parties with, so I haven't really felt kind of that lonely aspect that I
Mhm.
think a lot of people do feel, but, yeah, it's especially the second half of the year, getting to know people and, like, having those groups to play practice rounds and hang out with has been nice for me and, has kind of kept me away from that.
So you leading up to your win, you played in the team event, and then you had a month off, and you touched
Mhm.
on it a bit, but kind of what changed in that month? I mean, did you find your game? Did you kind of reset? Because leading into that event, Alexis, I mean, you're kind of like on the outside looking in. You have to worry about your
Mhm.
card and all of the things that come with end of the year pressure. So in that month off, was there something you can specifically point to that changed, or was it just like kind of relaxing and getting back to basics?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of hard work. I remember putting in a lot of time, during those off weeks and really focusing on my weaknesses because I felt like I had been trending in the right direction. I had played pretty well at the Dow event. I had had a few made cuts, made the cut in the major, but there were just little things that kind of were throwing me off. Like I had a couple of events where I was in good contention, even the major, and then the final round I'd kind of slip up, or in the team event we had a really good week, but I felt like I could really improve on my short distance putting. Um, and I really went to work on everything that I felt like could close those gaps. And I accomplished that pretty well. So I think that's why Ireland went so much better for me. And then even after that. And so even this week being back home, it's not as long of a break. And maybe I don't have as many things to correct, but it's just trying to get everything better and more consistent um, for long stretches of golf coming up.
I read just before we came on that you had never played links golf before. Is that true? Before Ireland?
I feel like I've played a little bit in the States, but I'd
Mm-hmm.
never played true links golf in
Mm.
Europe.
Yep.
Even we played a junior Solheim Cup over there in Scotland, and that wasn't a very linksy course. It was a very Americanized golf course. And then I hadn't really played in Europe much before. And so that was my first time, and it was extremely humbling. Very it was
Well,
all
not too
that
humbling.
everyone
You
says it
won.
is.
I mean,
Well, I only had to play the super linksy course
yeah.
once, and
Okay. Fair.
so I didn't even know that when I played it. I thought I had one more go around on it, and I was like, that's gonna be tough." But it was a good experience. I mean, it was such a beautiful golf course in a great place, and I'm glad that I got to get a good taste of links golf, so hopefully I'll be prepared when we go back over there. Well, not to Ireland next year, but back over to Europe next year.
Like looking back on it, is it relief, Alexa? Is it? I mean, obviously there's happiness. You're now an LPGA winner, but I mean, I assume your play after, is it partly because, hey, like at least my next few years are set. You can take a breath. You don't have the pressure of your keeping your card or Q series or anything coming up. I assume part of it has to be a huge relief of like, hey, my future, at least temporarily, is set. I can just go play how I know I can play.
Yeah, definitely the relief sort of thing is there. Like I said, the beginning of the season, I felt like I put a lot of pressure on myself or a lot of expectations that I wanted to accomplish. And now, having gotten that win, like you said, kind of frees up the status part of it. But still a lot of goals that I have left to accomplish this year. But it's a lot easier playing when you're just out there playing to win and not worried about where you're finishing to move up into the top 100 on CME points. Now it's like if I'm not like our last event in the Queen City event in Ohio, I kind of had a rough round, was sitting a little bit on the cut line and just kind of went for it the next day. I wasn't really worried about whether I made the cut
Mhm.
or had to go home. It was I wanted to shoot up as much as I could on the leaderboard. So it's really nice having that freed up aspect. And as a rookie, it's very nice because I've been outside the bubble. I know how stressful it is, and I see my friends going through that same thing. So it's nice to be out of that kind of mindset.
And those are the little things that, I mean, that's not a little thing. Those are the things that change. I
Yeah.
mean, you can go into that second round and go like, "Hey, obviously you want to make the cut." The desire is
Hmm.
still the same to
Yeah,
perform well, but it isn't like you miss the cut and you go, "How many spots am I going to fall? Where am I in points?"
exactly.
You're just like, "Hey, I'm going to go get." So you are freed up to maybe take another chance, par five instead of
Hmm.
laying up. You can push it. The little things that a lot of people just don't see.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a big part of kind of the pressure that you can put on yourself is trying to focus a little bit too much on rankings and it's but it's not something you can really avoid when you're sitting on that bubble because you're worried about what events you're going to get into, whether you're going to be playing in the majors. Do I book a flight to Europe? Do I not? So it's not really something you can avoid. But now it is because I won. So that's nice.
Yeah. All right, your dad. For those that don't know, Alexa's dad, Caddie's for her. How do you separate it, Alexa? How do you separate dad and Caddie, or is it impossible? Is this like your dad and Caddie, a daughter and player, or do you guys have a conversation like, "Hey, I'm out here, I'm the boss," or what is that? How do you manage that relationship?
Yeah. It's never easy. I know a lot of people have struggled with having parents caddy or even other family members. Um, it's not easy because you can kind of sometimes have a tendency to say things to them that you wouldn't say to other people. But the good parts of it for me have been super beneficial. Like my dad knowing my game so well and knowing the different shots I hit, knowing my yardages super well. So that has been super beneficial to me. And I've told everyone that I'll give him the credit. Ireland was definitely the best caddying he's ever done. He was so helpful that week, kept me calm. Um, and we honestly just had fun. So the upsides for me outweigh all of the downsides there. And he's been doing a pretty good job this year. And I get on him whenever he like needs to walk faster or whatever it is. So I still have that little bit of like, Dad, let's go, hurry up. But I don't know. I feel like we've done pretty well, especially recently, kind of managing that.
What's the biggest argument over a golf ball you've had? Do you remember like a one particular decision that you and your dad are like talked about in the car after? Is there one like you're like, no, this is definitely a layup, or vice versa?
Gosh. I think my so okay. Little bit of backstory was I was on the Epson tour last year and
Yeah.
I came in second in the Kinston event and I had a four-shot lead that ended up trickling down because I got behind a tree on this one hole and I was like, I'm gonna go for it. And he was like,
Yeah.
okay, whatever you say. Like, obviously, it probably wasn't the right decision, but he kind of just agreed with me in that moment.
Sure.
And so I ended up heading to a playoff, because that ball hit the tree and went in the water, and so I go to a playoff, I lose to an eagle in the playoff, and that kinda haunted me for a very long
Hmm.
time,
Sure.
thought about it way too much, and so in Ireland, I was tied for the lead going into the final hole, but the final hole is a reachable par 5, so that lead was not gonna stand. I hit my drive into the left rough. It's a super narrow runway up to the green with water on the left and the pins tucked left. And I asked my dad like 5 times. I'm like, "No, don't just agree with me just to agree with me. Do I
Yeah.
go for this? Do I pull this out of the rough?"
Sure.
And, like, every single time he's like, "Yes, yes, yes." And then, like, after I remember we got in the car heading home, he's like, "I don't wanna hear about Kinston ever again. We're putting this to bed. Like, it's done. You can go for greens in tough
Yeah.
situations." So, I don't know if that was, like I don't know if
No,
that's
that's
on
good.
him, but
That's
yeah.
I mean, it's great from a father-daughter relationship, but just a caddy in general is just like,
Yeah.
I mean, you
No,
have to be able
it's
to trust that
definitely
the guy's
tough
telling you.
because if I would've punched out and still lost, it would've been like, "Damn, I punched out and lost because you
Yeah.
told me to punch out." But it's always the caddy's fault anyways,
Yeah,
so
100%.
yeah.
100%. Christina, for those that listen, Christina, I said, trust this club on one hole. And then she hit it like she didn't hit it very well. She's like, don't ever say that to me again. And I was like, wait a minute. How the hell is this my fault?
It's just
uh,
always the caddy's fault.
yeah, 100%. All right. Last little thing I want to cover. The uh, Alexa has the New England Patriots. I assumed it was a sponsor from the get go, but I've read now that you put it on the bag. Just get, your dad is a huge fan, had of season tickets for 40
Mhm.
years. You put it on the bag,
Yeah.
and it's worked. It's like maybe your agent decided or whatever as like kind of a cool thing. It would grab some
Yeah.
attention, and now a relationship has come from it.
Yeah, I'm definitely very lucky to say that I'm sponsored by the Patriots. I've been a lifelong fan, and I think, like you said, I did put it on my bag at the US Women's Open, because that was the one week I was gonna have a tour bag. And, funny enough, the next week at Kinston, my dad got an email, like, basically saying that they wanted to make the partnership a sponsorship, and
Mm.
he thought it was a prank. I thought it was a prank because there's just no way that's actually happening, but it's so cool. They've been so supportive of me, and it's like I said, the dream sponsorship. I think for my dad, it's very cool because he's been a fan for so long, but for me, it's just as cool because I've been a fan since as long as I can remember. Sundays were always for sitting down with my grandparents. My whole family would watch Patriots games, and, even after I finished up in Ohio this past week, I finished up at about 4:05, and we, like, booked it to the hotel to make that 4:25 kickoff. So, there will be a lot of that this season, I can already tell.
Tom Brady reaching out to your agent has to be one, as a lifelong Patriots fan, has to be cool for you, obviously, but I assume for your dad has to be one of the cooler moments for him.
Yeah, he loves to talk about it because it's and I don't blame him at all. I love talking about it. It's just definitely a dream come true, and I'm really proud to be able to represent the best organization in sports. So
No. All right. I suppose you're right. They are,
they're
as a
not
Lions
bad.
fan, I mean, I can't argue it. Yeah, they are an amazing organization. What's the goals? I mean, I assume Solheim Cup would be a huge goal. Alexa, majors. Are you like a goal? And I know you're goal oriented in, like, you want to play well and improve and all those things. But is this like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 type goals, or is it just get better and see what happens type?
Um, I definitely have a few specific goals in mind. You definitely mentioned a couple of them, but yeah, right now this week I'm focusing on getting better, just trying to be the best I can be for the rest of the events. But I definitely have some places that I'd like to be next year around the same time. So
Yeah, might be watching the Solheim Cup with the thoughts that next year you might learn something on TV to be and put in place in 1 year from today. For those listening that don't know, to get back on different years than the Ryder Cup, the Solheim Cup is played 2 consecutive years. So
yeah.
there is another team next year. Is the points a 2 year points, or is it just 1 year, Alexa?
I don't really know. I guess I'll
You win
figure that
if you
out.
win a bunch, you're going to be on the team. That's all.
Exactly. That's kind of the mindset. But
Yeah.
I guess I'll figure that out eventually.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. Alexa, thank you. It was great to meet you. I'm a huge fan, and so I look forward to covering you and when you make your run to the Solheim Cup this year. So thanks for the time on and off week.
Yeah,
I
thank you
appreciate it
so
very
much.
much.
I'll look forward to reading more of your articles and podcasts and still being a fan. So